There is a part of your mind that has never been damaged, never been traumatized, never believed the worst things you've thought about yourself. While the ego was building its fortress of fear and judgment and grievance, this part of your mind was quietly here the whole time, untouched, clear, available. A Course in Miracles calls it the Holy Spirit. And I completely understand if that name just lost half of you. Because Holy Spirit carries enormous religious baggage for most people, images of church, doctrine, something external and supernatural that either speaks to prophets or doesn't speak at all. The Course is using that name for something else entirely. Something practical, something personal, something you have access to right now, in this moment, regardless of your background or your beliefs. And once you understand what it actually is, you'll recognize it. Because you've heard it before. You just didn't know what to call it. By the end of this video, you're going to understand what the Holy Spirit actually is in ACIM's framework. In plain terms, no religious assumption required. You'll understand why the Course says it is the answer to the ego, and how exactly it functions as a counterforce to the fear-based thought system we covered in the last few videos. You'll see how it communicates, why it never overrides your will, and why that matters. And you'll have a concrete practice for learning to distinguish the Holy Spirit's voice from the ego's, because both are present in your mind. And learning to tell them apart is one of the most valuable skills the Course teaches. This is the video where the Course stops being just a philosophy and starts becoming something you can actually use. Think of a time when you were in the middle of a conflict, an argument, a tense conversation, a moment when you were absolutely certain you were right and the other person was wrong. And somewhere in the heat of it, something quietly appeared. Not a loud voice, not a dramatic intervention. Just a small, clear sense, this isn't the hill. Or they're in pain right now. Or you could just let this one go. You probably overrode it. Because the ego was louder and more urgent and had 17 good reasons to stay in the fight. But it was there. That quiet clarity underneath the noise, not competing with it, just present, that is what the Course is pointing to when it talks about the Holy Spirit. It doesn't shout. It doesn't argue. It doesn't manipulate. It simply offers a different way of seeing, waits for you to be ready, and is still there when the ego's storm dies down. A Course in Miracles describes the Holy Spirit as the communication link between God and the separated mind. But strip the theology for a moment, and here is what that means functionally. When the Son of God, when awareness, when you believed the thought of separation and the ego formed around that belief, something was also placed in the mind that remembered the truth. A kind of homing signal. A part of the mind that did not go into the dream but stayed at the threshold of it, available to anyone willing to listen. The Course calls it the voice for God, but it also calls it many other things: the answer, the comforter, the bridge, right-mindedness. The name matters less than the function. Its function is to reinterpret everything the ego made for fear and offer a perspective rooted in love instead. Here is a key distinction the Course makes. The Holy Spirit does not create new information. It does not give you revelations from outside yourself. It translates what is already in your experience, the same relationships, the same situations, the same events, through a completely different lens. The ego looks at a conflict and sees a threat to be defended against. The Holy Spirit looks at the same conflict and sees a request for love and an opportunity to heal. Same situation. Completely different interpretation. And both interpretations are always available to you. The Course is also very clear on something that surprises people: the Holy Spirit never forces. It never overrides your will. It never punishes you for choosing the ego instead. It simply waits. With infinite patience, the Course says, because it knows that eventually, through whatever path of suffering the ego leads you down, you will be ready to choose differently. And it will be there. But here's the practical question. If both voices are present, the ego and the Holy Spirit, and the ego is loud, urgent, and persuasive while the Holy Spirit is quiet and gentle, how do you actually learn to tell them apart in real time? Because in the middle of a charged moment, it's not always obvious which voice is which. The Course gives a strikingly simple answer. The ego's voice generates urgency. The Holy Spirit's voice generates peace. The ego says, decide now, act now, defend now, this is an emergency. It always has a sense of pressure behind it, the pressure of scarcity, of threat, of time running out. The Holy Spirit's voice has no urgency. It is always patient. It always leaves you feeling more settled, not more agitated. Even when it says something hard, even when the clear perception it offers is uncomfortable, there is a quality of spaciousness underneath it. Not the contracted tightness of fear. The open steadiness of something that knows there is no emergency. Chapter 5 of the text makes another distinction that is worth holding. The ego's thought system is based on attack and defense. The Holy Spirit's thought system is based on what the Course calls the happy learner, someone who is genuinely curious about what love would do here, rather than driven by what fear demands. The Holy Spirit, the Course says, teaches by demonstrating. Not by argument, not by force, but by showing you, through your own experience in your own life, what it feels like when you let love lead instead of fear. Here is your practice. Sometime today in a quiet moment. Before the day's noise starts or after it winds down, simply sit still for 2 minutes and ask one question inwardly. What would you have me see differently right now? You're not looking for a vision or an epiphany. You're just opening a door. You're making the invitation. The Course says the Holy Spirit answers every call, always. What you're building with this practice is not the Holy Spirit's willingness. It's yours. The receptivity. The habit of asking. Because the asking itself is the shift. Every time you turn toward that quieter voice instead of the ego's noise, you are choosing which teacher is running your mind. Do that once today. Just ask. Then notice what arises in the stillness. We started with a voice you've been ignoring. Quiet, patient, never competing with the ego's noise. And I hope what's landing now is this: you're not trying to build a connection with something far away. You're remembering something that has always been exactly here. In every conflict you've ever navigated. In every moment you chose patience over reaction. In every time you saw through someone's difficult behavior to the person underneath, that was it. That was the Holy Spirit. You didn't need a name for it to use it. But having the name changes something. It means you can go looking for it deliberately. It means you have a teacher inside you that is available in any moment, for any situation, without cost or condition. A Course in Miracles is, in many ways, a curriculum for learning to hear that voice more clearly. Subscribe so you don't miss video 8, because next week we get into the Course's teaching on the body. What it is, what it isn't, and why the relationship you have with your body might be the most ego-driven relationship in your life. Leave a comment below. Have you ever had a moment where you heard that quiet, clear voice underneath the noise, and what happened when you listened to it? See you in video 8.